Hello everyone, welcome to Animprep. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? When this anime first came out, it was spectacular. It had top tier animation, memorable waifus, great action, and of course it started trends. It had everything that made anime so appealing to anime fans. Season 2 came out however, and it wasn't as impressive. It was quite disappointing actually. The trends it started had become familiar. The general animation standard for modern anime had improved to make it less visually appealing and more ordinary. Production values within the series itself were reduced due to the ongoing issues with the studio. The action wasn't as hard-hitting and the story became convoluted as it moved away from its core premise of dungeon raids. Some time passed, however, and I became excited again for the third season. I'm optimistic for what it holds. That's the introduction. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. This season starts out with a simple conflict. Belle rescues a monster girl who is meant to be an enemy to the adventurers, but it turns out the monster girl is intelligent and no different from the other girls in the party. So guess what Belle does? He scoops her up and adds her to the harem, of course. This harem is growing faster than COVID cases. As the season progresses, Hestia's familia discover more talking monsters like the aptly named Vine. The talking monsters, or Xenos, as we learn they are called, want equal rights and not to be killed. This is a fair assertion, and as a black person, I can get behind the not wanting to die movement. The plot leans heavily on this conflict. It's not particularly well written or innovative, but it's good enough to drive the story along. Careful for major spoilers ahead. Let's stop here for my first complaint. The monster designs are not very compelling. It's like they literally took level 5 Final Fantasy monsters and tried to make them into main characters. Their mouths don't even move when they talk. They put a little more effort into the female monsters for obvious reasons, but the guys, oh lord, they look crappy. Look at Lid. He's meant to be a leader of the Xenos faction, but his designs look so rubbish that when he came on screen I chuckled a little bit every time. There is also Gross, who is marginally worse. I can't even tell his face apart from his body. Now we know this can be done better because the monster designs in the day I got reincarnated as a slime are pretty good. Gabiru is a wacky character, but I was never put off by his design. It's really cool actually, and he's no less of a monster than Lid here. Back to the conflict. It isn't anything new like I stated before, but it is interesting to see how the characters in the context of Danmachi respond to it. This is interesting because the knowledge of the Xenos is essentially held in secret by the gods. So Hestia's familia is one of the few who are aware of them. When the Xenos monsters go berserk in town, it sets up an interesting scenario where a regular adventurer will be inclined to kill the monsters, but Bell and his friends are inclined to protect the Xenos. This puts allies in direct opposition to one another. The crescendo of all of this is the clash between the Hestia familia and the Loki familia. As a strong anime-only viewer, this came as a surprise to me. I never expected the anime to put several recurring characters in direct opposition to one another. This was interesting, reminiscent of the Soul Society arc in Bleach. Even has an Aizen-style betrayal in there and everything. And man, do they get this finale right. The last episode is a balls to the wall Sakuga fest with a budget burned down so high that J.C.Staff might as well have been throwing cash at the screen. It was amazing and made me forgive all the missteps of the earlier sections of the anime. This is what we watch action anime for. Going forward again, as an anime-only viewer, I see several problems for Danmachi. The first and main one I'll talk about is repetition. I made the comparison to Bleach earlier, but there's a lot of similarities in the storytelling, and therefore we can conclude that it will suffer from many of the same pitfalls. Bleach had 2 consecutive seasons with the exact same plotline. Girl gets captured by a group, Ichigo has to train then enter their territory to rescue her. For Danmachi, the plot loop seems to be girl needs help due to some social issue and Mr. Bitch's Belle Cranell needs to rescue her from her circumstances. I think people are a bit more forgiving with Danmachi in this regard because it overtly presents itself as a harem anime. I mean, it's even in the title, so viewers really shouldn't get disappointed when the ongoing premise is to add girls to the harem. That said, Danmachi is actually not a good harem anime. The Japanese title for Danmachi actually translates to "Is it wrong to seek encounters in a dungeon?" This English title I think gives a more accurate reflection of the content of the show. It isn't so much a harem anime built around dungeon encounters as the English name would suggest, but it's actually a fantasy anime about growth through encounters. I believe the English name was put forward purely for marketing reasons. What I'm really saying here is that the anime is deeper than it appears on the surface. Even though it really doesn't need to, because what's on the surface is enough to sell it. It's just a shame that some anime viewers may decide to skip this one because of that perception. I really hope Danmachi gets renewed for a season 4. I had a grand time taking in the quality of the action as well as Hestia, if you know what I mean. Thanks for watching today. Subscribe and I'll talk to you again soon.